The kitchen smelled like fresh coffee and quiet victory that morning. The kind of productive silence I had spent 6 years perfecting inside the beige prison they called Harmony Grove, HO. I was 3 bites in a buttered toast when the front door flew open without a knock. They never knocked. To them, this was never my home. It was community property they tolerated until it became inconvenient. Evan marched in first. My brother, wearing a Navy suit that probably cost more than my mortgage payment. Behind him came Mom, Diane, the HOA president everyone whispered about as that Karen, her hands clutching a designer handbag like it might catch the filth of my unapproved backyard. Trailing like a hungry vulture was Aunt Gloria, board secretary, ready to witness the execution. They moved like a single organism of entitlement and clipboards. Evan didn't say hello. He simply dropped a thick sheaf of stapled papers on my oak table with a thud that echoed like a gavel. "It's over. Daisy," he said in that courtroom voice he practiced in a mirror. "The HOA has filed the lien enforcement order. Your house will be auctioned in 30 days to satisfy the accumulated assessments you owe the association." I took another slow bite of toast, chewed, swallowed, and looked up with the calmest smile I could muster. "Good morning to you too, Evan." "Mom." "Gloria, coffee." "Stop playing the victim," Evan snapped, veneer cracking. "You've ignored every rule for 6 years. Unapproved structures. Commercial activity in a residential zone. Visual pollution that's tanked property values. We've been patient. Now the board is calling in the collateral." Mom stepped forward, not sitting, just staring out my window at the backyard with pure disdain. "We're doing this for you. Daisy, you're 34. This hobby house is drowning you. Losing it is the only way you'll grow up and finally follow the covenants like everyone else." I set the toast down. My appetite was gone, replaced by that cold, sharp clarity I'd been waiting for. "What assessments exactly?" Evan leaned in. "The acknowledgement of debt and collateral agreement you signed 5 years ago when the board approved your temporary backyard additions. You never paid the special assessments. The motion is granted. The county assessor is coming Friday at 9 to value the property for auction." I looked at the document. The signature at the bottom was mine, loop of the D, sharp cross of a T, the way the N trailed off. Perfect, except for the microscopic pixel artifacting around the edges that only someone who'd spent years inspecting hydroponic leaves under magnification would notice. It was lifted straight from my old Northbridge Strategy Group employee handbook scan. "Fascinating," I said quietly. "Where did you find this?" "In the files," Evan answered too fast. "You signed it when you needed the variance for those ugly sheds." I didn't scream. I didn't point out that 5 years ago I had paid for every improvement by selling my car. Not by borrowing from the HOA, I just nodded. "So that's it. Friday at 9. I'll make sure the place is presentable." They blinked, clearly expecting tears, begging, anything to feed their righteous climax. My calm stole their thunder. Evan stood, buttoning his jacket. "At least you're finally showing pragmatism. Clean up the yard. I don't want the appraisal coming in low because of your laziness." "I'll take care of it," I said. They filed out. Evan revved his silver sedan and sprayed gravel like he owned the street. I watched the dust settle, then locked the door. Only then did my shoulders drop. The silence returned, but now it hummed with purpose. I went to the master closet, knelt, and lifted the loose floorboard. The fireproof safe clicked open. Inside, the manila envelope Dad left me for Daisy, "When you're ready," and a black USB drive full of every email, audio file, and scan I'd quietly collected while they thought I was just a neighborhood failure. Dad had known. He'd seen how Mom looked at the covenants like scripture and how Evan salivated over property values. He'd slipped me the original notarized gift deed and the letter proving the seed money for my house was never alone. They never knew. I took out the envelope and the USB, then reached for my cracked old phone and dialed a number I'd memorized but never saved. It rang twice. "This is Rowan." "It's happening," I said. "They just left. Forged lien filed. Assessor Friday at 9. A brief pause, then typing. "Tight timeline. Shipment Thursday night. Want me to divert?" "No." "Double the volume. I want inventory maxed. Bring the full binder and the historicals." Evan thinks he's appraising a failing eyesore. "I need you to show him what this place is actually worth." Rowan's voice carried dark amusement. "Been waiting to meet your brother. He sounds charming." "He's a shark," I said. "But sharks suffocate on land." "Friday at 9. Don't let them delay." I hung up and looked at the pinned lien notice on my fridge next to the planning schedule. It wasn't a threat anymore. It was fuel. You have to understand the noise I left behind 6 years ago. I had walked out of Northbridge Strategy Group the same week the HOA covenants arrived in my mailbox like a prison sentence. 4 years of writing marketing copy for things I hated, optimizing click rates for diet pills and scams. When I told the family at Sunday dinner I'd bought the little house in Harmony Grove and planned to live simply, Mom, already eyeing the HOA presidency, clattered her silverware and called it hysterical. Evan laughed, listing small business failure rates. Dad was the only one who waited until later that night, handed me a check, and whispered, "Make it real. Daisy, don't let them decide who you are." The first 18 months were brutal. HOA fines started immediately. $250 for grass 1 inch too long. $500 for unauthorized paint touch-up on the trim. $1,000 for the visual pollution of my first greenhouse frame. I tried to hide behind a privacy fence they declared too tall. I paid them. I smiled at the community meetings. I let them think I was the broke, struggling homeowner who couldn't even keep Kentucky bluegrass perfect like the covenants demanded. But I wasn't farming fields. I was building an empire in plain sight. I stopped trying to compete with big agriculture and pivoted to the razor-thin niche the Michelin chefs craved. Microgreens, edible flowers, rare Japanese shiso harvested at exactly 3 inches. Delivered within 4 hours with temperature logs that could survive a lawsuit. I converted the backyard, against every rule, into 3 climate-controlled greenhouses disguised as storage sheds and 1 shipping container processing hub. I welded myself from YouTube tutorials. Hospital-grade filtration, blast chillers, QR-coded trays tracking pH. Harvest time, delivery van temperature, every 15 minutes. No noise. No tractors. Just silent, obsessive precision. Deliveries happened at 4 a.m. Unmarked white vans. My clients, Rowan's Morrow and Slate Hospitality Group, paid premium prices because my product never varied. 1 bruised pedal and I lost a contract. I reinvested 90% of revenue back into infrastructure while my taxable income stayed modest. To the HOA drones with their clipboards and drones. My yard looked like a messy hobby gone wrong. Opaque plastic. Rusty containers. Wilting rows they never got close enough to see were perfect. Mom and Evan visited twice a year, wrinkling their noses. Plastic and dirt. Daisy. 6 years, and this is what you have to show. They saw failure. They needed me to be the cautionary tale that kept their HOA power justified. I let them. It bought me time. Then Dad died. The funeral was black wool and insincere hugs. Mom and Evan sharpened immediately. Talk of consolidating assets. Trimming fat. With Dad gone, the wolves wore HOA name tags. I went home and started preparing. Every document Dad gave me went into the safe. I moved my real office into the processing container behind a biometric steel door. On paper, Daisy Martin was the recluse with the eyesore property racking up fines. Inside the perimeter, I ran a multi-million-dollar ghost operation with a 6-week waiting list of chefs who would kill to get on my rotation. The HOA saw plastic and dirt because that's what I wanted them to see. They had no idea the rusting containers housed a sterile cold chain worth more than their entire board budget. They thought they were about to seize a failing house to protect property values. They were about to walk into a fortress. I spent the next 3 days cleaning data, not the yard. I printed binders, organized water quality reports. My senior aquifer permit was grandfathered and allowed commercial use, worth 10 times the dirt alone. Harvest logs, an Amaro and slate contract with revenue figures highlighted. The county assessor, Caleb Mercer, hated drama and liars. I was going to give him neither. Thursday night, the vans rolled in on schedule. Crates left full. Cash flowed in while Evan slept thinking he'd won. I pinned the lien notice next to my planting schedule and whispered to the empty kitchen. Friday at 9. See you Friday. Friday morning arrived with a sky so clear it looked like blue glass. Perfect stage lighting for the show I had rehearsed in silence for years. I stood on the porch at 8:30 with black coffee when Evan's silver sedan pulled up, ignoring every no unauthorized vehicles sign the board itself had posted. He parked like he owned the driveway. Mom and Aunt Gloria climbed out in funeral casual, expressions of somber anticipation. "You're early," I said, not moving. "We wanted a preliminary sweep," Evan answered. "Adjusting cuffs. Make sure you haven't stripped any copper before the assessor arrives." "Good morning, Mom," I replied. Diane looked me up and down, work jeans, Northbridge hoodie, and wrinkled her nose. The smell of fertilizer is giving me a headache already. The county assessor, Caleb Mercer, arrived exactly at 9 in a plain sedan, clipboard in hand. He looked like a man who just wanted to finish his route without drama. Evan immediately launched into the script. "As you can see, Mr. Mercer, the property is in clear violation of covenants. Unapproved structures, commercial activity, visual blight. The lien is justified. We expect a low valuation to expedite the auction." Caleb nodded politely and began his walk around. I followed at a distance, letting him see the mess. He noted the opaque plastic, the containers, the overgrown areas. Evan kept pointing, plastic tunnels, probably dying tomatoes. Rusted boxes, junk. This is dragging down the whole neighborhood. Mom chimed in, voice dripping martyrdom. "We're doing this for the community, Mr. Mercer, and for Daisy. Tough love." Caleb was halfway through the front yard when a black SUV turned into the drive. Rowan Pike stepped out in a shark suit sharper than Evan's, tablet in hand, heels clicking like gavels on the concrete. Caleb froze mid-step. "Wait," he said. "She's my client." Rowan didn't wait for permission. She walked straight to Caleb, shook his hand, and handed him the thick blue binder. Rowan Pike, Director of Procurement for Morrow and Slate Hospitality. Daisy Martin is one of our premier suppliers. I have the full contract, revenue history, and temperature logs for the last 24 months. Shall we continue the appraisal inside the actual operation? Evan's face went the color of his tie. "This is a private family. HOA matter. You're just a vendor." Rowan smiled the way sharks smile. "I'm a witness, and currently witnessing an attempt to undervalue a commercial enterprise to facilitate an illegal seizure. Shall we show Mr. Mercer what's really growing behind those ugly sheds?" I led the group to the backyard gate I'd kept locked for 6 years. When I swung it open, the morning sun hit the 3 climate-controlled greenhouses in full violet LED glow. Rows of perfect shiso, micro cilantro, edible orchids, none of it wilting. Caleb's clipboard actually lowered an inch. Evan's mouth opened, closed, opened again. Rowan handed Caleb the first page of the contract. Gross revenue, mid-7 figures last fiscal year alone. Every crate scanned, logged, Cold chain unbroken. The structures you called unapproved are hospital-grade facilities built to feed Michelin kitchens. And the water rights attached to this lot are senior, grandfathered for commercial use. Developers have been sniffing around this entire block for a logistics hub. They need that water. Mom clutched her pearls so hard I thought they'd snap. This is commercial activity in a residential zone. The covenants forbid. The covenants you personally amended last year to allow your son's consulting office in his garage. I asked sweetly. The first real laugh escaped me, black. Sharp. Satisfying. Funny how rules bend when it's your blood. Evan recovered enough to snarl at Rowan. You stay out of this. This is HOA business. Rowan didn't flinch. I'm currently witnessing extortion via forged documents. That signature on the debt acknowledgement? My forensic examiner already confirmed it's a cut and paste job from Daisy's 2017 employment file. Pixel degradation on the D is textbook. He'll testify under oath. Caleb cleared his throat. Voice suddenly steel. Mr. Martin, in your sworn affidavit for the lien, you described this property as dilapidated and non-operational. That appears to be a material falsehood. Evan's lawyer mask cracked wide open. It's just plastic sheds. She hid everything. Caleb turned to me. Not Evan. MS. Martin, based on what I'm seeing and the documentation, MS. Pipe provided. I'm placing an immediate hold on any lien enforcement or auction proceedings. Preliminary valuation, factoring infrastructure, water rights, and verified revenue is in excess of $4.8 million. Diane actually gasped. Gloria covered her mouth like she'd seen a ghost. Evan's greed flickered for half a second. He was already calculating how to spin this into a bigger flip before the panic set in. That changes nothing, he blustered. Higher value just means more equity to seize for the debt. Sell it. Clear the assessments. Everyone wins. Caleb's eyes went flat. The debt must be validated first. And given the discrepancies I've heard today, I'm flagging this entire file for judicial review. You misrepresented the asset condition in a sworn statement. That's not just a mistake. That's fraud on the HOA and the court. I stepped forward, voice quiet but carrying. And while we're on the subject of misrepresentation, Evan, I know about the zoning petition Apex Horizon Holdings filed 3 months ago, your shell company, to rezone my lot from residential to light industrial. You sold my house to Sunray Logistics before you even owned it. The letter of intent was in the briefcase you dropped when you fled the driveway like a coward. I held up the crumpled pages I'd retrieved from the gravel earlier. Caleb took them, scanned the header, and his face hardened. Premeditated intent to sell an asset not yet acquired, combined with the forged signature and false affidavit. This is conspiracy to commit real estate fraud. Mom started crying the theatrical tears she'd perfected at HOA meetings. Daisy, please. We're family. We were desperate. The coastal investment collapsed. We leveraged everything. We thought you were struggling too. We were trying to help. Help. The laugh came out darker this time. You told the entire neighborhood I was on food stamps, mentally unstable, a welfare case who needed saving from herself. Aunt Gloria repeated it at every potluck. You rewrote my life as a charity project so you could steal my home with a clean conscience. That's not help. That's character assassination with a side of embezzlement, because I saw the UCCC filings. You used HOA reserve funds for your personal bridge loan. Rowan crossed her arms. If MS. Martin is on welfare, the state has a very generous definition of poverty. My accounting department wired her nearly $400,000 in the last 6 months alone. She's not a charity case. She's a tycoon in work boots. And the only people struggling with financial competence here are the ones in suits. Evan lunged a step toward me. Fists clenched. I will sue you. I will tie you up in litigation for 5 years. I will burn this place to the ground legally. Go ahead, I said, pulling out my phone. But before you file anything, know that my countercomplaint for fraud, abuse of process, and malicious prosecution is already drafted. The forensic report on the forgery goes to the state bar today. Your license is toast. Brother. He froze. The threat of losing money was bad. Losing the bar card that let him bully people was worse. Caleb closed his clipboard with finality. The sheriff is on his way for statements. I suggest you stay put. Mr. Martin, I'm submitting my report immediately, recommending sanctions and referral to the district attorney. Evan looked at his car like it was a life raft. We're leaving. Not yet, Caleb said, voice like a traffic cop. I need your signature acknowledging receipt of the hold order. Leaving now gets marked as flight to avoid service. Evan slammed the steering wheel, killed the engine, and stomped back. Mom and Gloria stayed huddled in the back seat like refugees, while he signed with shaking hands. I handed Caleb the manila envelope, Dad's letter, and the voicemail recording. The money was a gift. There was never a debt. The signature was forged from an old HR document. Everything is time-stamped. Caleb scanned the letter, then nodded to the portable speaker I brought out. I plugged in the USB. Dad's warm, gravelly voice filled the backyard. Hey, Daisy girl, the money I gave you is gone. It's an investment in you, not the dirt. I don't want it back. Just keep building. Love you. Kiddo. The silence after was absolute. Mom's shoulders shook for real this time. Evan looked like a man who'd been gut-punched by a ghost. That establishes intent, Caleb said quietly. No debt. No default. Combined with the forgery and the premature sales contract. This file is going straight to the DA. Rowan stepped up beside me, solid as armor. Morrow and Slate will provide notarized affidavits on revenue and solvency. We'll also support any legal action. Your sister isn't just solvent. She's the most reliable supplier we have. Evan tried one last desperate pivot. Even if the value is high, liquidation still makes sense. Sell it. Pay the assessments. Daisy walks with a check. Everyone wins. I shook my head. The only thing being liquidated today is your credibility. You came here to flip my home to developers who need my water rights. You use the HOA like your personal piggy bank and try to bury me under fake fines. The community you claim to protect, they're about to find out their president and her son were running a fraud scheme. Aunt Gloria finally cracked. Diane told us you were destitute. She said you were on food stamps and mentally unstable. Taking the house was supposed to be a kindness, a conservatorship. I turned slowly. So the narrative was that I was a leech, which gave you moral license to be the heroes. Cute. Except the only welfare happening was the HOA funds you siphoned for your failed coastal gamble. Mom reached for me, tears streaming. Daisy, please. He's your brother. We're drowning. You have millions now. You can help us. Don't destroy the family. I stepped back, breaking her grip. You destroyed it the day you decided my home was just an asset to liquidate. For 6 years, you shamed me at every meeting. Told neighbors I was crazy. Laughed while I ate Christmas dinner alone because I wasn't successful enough. Now that I'm worth $4.8 million, suddenly we're family? Blood is an accident. Loyalty is a choice, and you chose greed. Evan grabbed Mom's arm. Get in the car. We're done. He reversed so hard the briefcase on the roof slid off and burst open. Papers scattered. I picked up the letter of intent, dated 3 months ago, selling my lot to Sunray Logistics for $1.2 million contingent on water rights. Caleb took it. Face grim. Premeditation. This is conspiracy to defraud. Federal if they use the mail for the lien notice. The silver sedan tore out in a cloud of gravel and shame. We watched the dust settle like the ghost of their empire. Caleb rubbed his temples. I hate family cases. Always the messiest. Your taxes are about to skyrocket. MS. Martin, reclassified commercial. But you just saved me from rubber stamping a fraudulent auction. I'd have lost my job. Don't apologize, I said. Send me the bill. Rowan grinned. Caleb lowballed you. You didn't factor brand value of the Morrow and Slate Association. We'll request reassessment next year. Later that afternoon, the whisper campaign started. Texts from cousins calling me ungrateful. Voicemails from Gloria saying Mom was sick with worry and I was greedy. By evening, the rumor of the $4.8 million valuation leaked. The tone flipped to suspicious curiosity. People suddenly wanted to know how the welfare case got rich. Mom showed up alone the next day. No suit, no pearls, just a simple coat and the settlement paper Evan had drafted. Sign this, and he drops everything. Mutual release. Small monthly stipend until the coastal property sells. We go away. No one goes to jail. I read Clause 4, acknowledgement of prior financial obligations. It was a trap to launder the forgery into legitimacy. You know, I said, voice steady. For years I wondered why you were so hard on me. I thought you wanted better for me. But you wanted better for you, a daughter you could brag about at the country club. Why didn't fit? You threw me away. Now that I built something valuable, you don't want me. You want the value. I tore the paper in half. Then again, tell Evan if you want a signature, he can get it on the deposition transcript. Goodbye, Diane. She walked back down the driveway like an old woman. I felt nothing but cool, clear relief. The courtroom 2 days later smelled of floor wax and desperation. Judge Vance looked through the thick stack of motions with open irritation. Evan stood at the plaintiff table immaculate, but sweating. Mom sat behind him, clutching a handkerchief. When the forensic report, Dad's letter, the voicemail, Caleb's valuation, and the premature sales contract all hit the bench, the judge's face turned to granite fury. The plaintiff's motion for lien enforcement is denied with prejudice, she ruled. The cross motion for dismissal is granted. Permanent restraining order, 500 yards from MS. Martin or her property. This file is referred to the district attorney for real estate fraud investigation and to the state bar for Mr. Martin's fitness to practice. Evan grabbed the table to stay upright. Mom wailed. He's my son. We were just trying to help. Judge Vance didn't blink. This is a court of law, madam. We adjudicate facts, not feelings. Your son used this court as a weapon against his own sister. If that's how your family operates, seek counseling, not legal remedy. Gavel slammed. Case dismissed. I walked out into bright sunshine where Rowan and Caleb waited. Rowan high-fived me hard. Drinks? Coffee and a pen. We have a contract to renew. 3 hours later, I was back at the farm. No, the house. Sun setting golden across the valley. The greenhouses glowed softly. I sat at the same kitchen table where Evan had slammed the lien notice. Rowan slid the new 5-year exclusive contract across. I signed with the cheap ballpoint, adding the tiny invisible dot inside the Y, just in case. Rowan left with a laugh and a warning. They'll come back when the money runs out. Let them knock, I said, sliding the deadbolt home with a satisfying thunk. The locks on this place are industrial grade. So am I. I pinned the new contract on the fridge where the lien notice had been. Made tea. Watched the lights of my empire hum in the darkness. Dad was right. I made it real. The world answered. And the HOA Karen who tried to steal it all? She got exactly what she deserved. Public. Humiliating. Irreversible justice. Thank you for listening to this HOA Karen story. From the forged lien to the final gavel. Justice tastes sweeter than any microgreen I've ever grown. Drop what you're watching from the comments. I read every single one. If you love seeing a power-tripping HOA Karen and her crooked family get exposed, smash that like button. Subscribe for more HOA drama and revenge stories. And hit the bell. See you in the next one, where another Karen learns the hard way. Never underestimate the quiet homeowner with receipts.